Good morning, happy people! Today we're coming at you from inside our home here in Orlando, Florida. We had mentioned that we have a door project. So we tried to go to the flea market and find some wood at a reclaimed wood place at the flea market, but he really didn't have anything that was worth even looking at. So we stopped by a store in Lake Wales called Broken Poor. So they sell cabinets, doors, windows, and such stuff like that for home remodeling and things like that. So we picked up a set of 18-inch wide doors. So we're going to be doing a door project here in our master bedroom. Right now behind me is my master bath, and as I walk through this doorway you'll see the entry into the bathroom. We would like to close this off to keep our cats from going in and eating all those plants, because they like to chew on them, and that's not bueno. So in today's video I'm going to be constructing a door. Let's get to work. So we'll start out by taking some measurements. I'm going to tape measure here, and we're going to measure the width of the door frame. So we got 38 inches. And we're going to measure the height of the door frame to the ground, and I have 81 inches. So, and my case in point, I have a cat down here on the floor looking at these plants back here, wanting to jump up and eat them. So that's why we're trying to close this area off. So I got my measurements. There's another cat. So we're gonna go outside now, and I'll show you what we picked up yesterday. So we started out with the idea of custom making some doors out of just scrap wood and whatnot, but we couldn't really find anything that we thought would even work. So we went to Broken Poor and we found these two doors. There's one and there's one behind it. They're 18 wide by 80 tall, which is about an inch taller than what I need. So I'm going to have to modify these by cutting the bottom off. It's a hollow door, so I may end up having to put a core inside, gluing something inside to make the bottom solid again. So then we went to Home Depot and got a door pack of trim for door trim, and then I got some already painted 6-inch wide boards to make the frame, and a couple of 1-inch boards to make the door stop. All right, folks, we set up all of the equipment. We have our safety glasses, our ear protection, our tape measure, which we went inside and measured again. It's 80.5 inches high for the door frame. That's what I'm going to need to cut these boards to. I have my table saw cross-cut sled on the table saw. That will ensure nice, straight, even cuts. I have a tape measure, a pencil, and a speed square to make the measurements on the boards. So let's get some stuff out of the way, go ahead and make our measurements. Tape measure out to 80.5. Here's our speed square. Draw a line across that reference. Move this one out the way. Measure this one. my board around. Like a nice stable platform for the board to sit on. So we'll line up our cut line. Use the clamp for safety. Hold it down. Move all the rest of this stuff out the way. Check the measurement. Perfect. Perfect. Now we need to create a rabbet at the top of the longboards. A rabbet is going to be a cut that comes down on one side and across, giving like a little L shape, and it's going to be the thickness of the wood so that the top board sits recessed kind of like that. I don't know if you can see it, that angle. So we're going to cut the top of the wood out a little bit on the tops of the boards so that this top board will sit inside and lock in place. So to do that, we're going to set up the blade. You want to go halfway across the distance of the thickness of the board. So we're going to lay this down and we're going to lower the blade. Doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be the same on both sides. That's approximately half the thickness of the board. Now we're going to take our stop block that we took off earlier. We're going to put it. So next, we need to measure the distance from the blade to the thickness of the wood. That's where we want the stop block to be, because we're going to be cutting lines in the bottom of the board for a distance of the thickness of the wood. Okay, using the cut line inside my sled and the stop block and a piece of actual material, I set the stop block to the thickness of the wood. Now we're going to use a piece of scrap and do a test cut. So we'll start out by just putting the edge of the wood over the blade and cutting multiple times. So if this is the blade, we're going to cut, 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 cut until the wood hits that stop block, and that'll be our perfect depth. So here we go. Okay, you can see the cut that we've made. Its depth is the thickness of the wood, and it's roughly half the thickness of the board. So now let's grab our other test piece and see if it fits. Perfect. So we're going to do that to the top of both of the long boards. Okay, all the tops have been cut, and now we have to measure for the top part of the frame that goes across. We know the door frame is 38 inches wide inside the bathroom, but we need to measure the doors themselves, which are 18 inches, just measured, and there's two doors, so that's going to be 36 inches. We want an 1/8 inch reveal between the doors, so that's going to be 36 and an 1/8. And then we also need probably an 1/8 inch on either side inside the frame, so that's 38 and 3/8 plus the measurement of this, which is 3/8. So 38 and 3/8. So 36 and 3/8 times 3 is going to be 37 and an 1/8. So our top bar has to be 37 and 1/8 long. So let's go ahead and cut that. All right, so I've measured that out. I'm gonna go ahead and cut now. Check our measurement. Perfect. All right, next up, we're gonna try and go test fit all this inside the bathroom. Okay, folks, we're back in the house. We've put the boards into the frame. Everything's got little gaps in between everywhere, but that's fine because you're gonna have to shim everything out anyway. The main important thing is that the door width is what we need for our doors. So, looking across here, we'll pull these in nice and tight. All right, and then we'll measure across the inside top. And we are 36 and 3/8, which is what we wanted because we have 36 inch wide doors, and we wanted an 1/8 inch gap in the center for closing and an 1/8 inch on either side for hinge gap, which will all get pretty much covered up in when the door opens and closes and whatnot, so no big deal. And our door height is going to end up, we have 79 and 7/8. So it's almost an 80-inch tall door, but that's to the ground. But since you're supposed to have a little bit of space underneath the door for clearance, if we go 79 and a half, that gives us about a little less than a ½ inch reveal at the bottom. So if we cut our door a ½ inch, that'll give us 79 and a half. That'll be pretty good in my book, I think. So next up, we're going to need to rip all these boards to the 5-inch width of the door frame. So let's take this all apart real quick. Set that down. Move that out the way. Move that out the way. So, our door frame, or the wall, is 4 3/4 wide. So, we're going to have to rip these boards, the length of them, to 4 3/4. So let's measure. Watch out, Stiggy. I got a cat down here moving boards. So I'm going to measure at the top, 4 3/4. I measured in the center, and measure the bottom. All measures the same. The other side is kind of interesting because there is no other side to this. It's just flat across. So we're going to have to do some trim magic when we go to trim out this door frame. So for now, let's go rip these boards. But one more thing before we do that, we want to make sure this is level. So I put the boards back in place. And what do you know? Perfect. Okay, for this portion of the project, we're going to need to remove our crosscut sled and install the rip fence. So let's do that. Take our extra material, set it aside. Remove our safety equipment. This simply lifts away. This is our rip fence. Place it at 4 3/4, lock it in place, and we're not going to take its word for it, so we're going to double check. Looks good. Safety. Double check our measurement. Perfect. Alright, so for the next leg of this trip, we're going to have to start removing some molding at the bottom of the wall, the baseboards. We're going to have to remove the molding around the door frame that's existing, or the doorway. So, back to the inside.